Hey all, so kicking off a new war season here with my newly rank 5 Mr. Fantastic, also bringing in my new iDoom. I am excited for this season. Subdue is a fun tactic for attackers. However, you see me immediately make a mistake. I. This is a perfectly fine fight for Reed, but the iDoom synergy is actually working against us. Because normally the way this fight works is you don't have to worry about the stun duration reduction because you have buffs on yourself. You can either dex to get them up, or you can just rely on the placebos being there. And sure, they feed Mystic Dispersion for your opponent, but that's why you have Mr. Fantastic with a Petrify. You don't have to worry about it. It is not a difficult fight. Unless, of course, you're a dummy and you parry twice immediately off the bat while you still effectively have the opponent neutralized and you have no buffs on you. And therefore, you're effectively using Mr. Fantastic against a stun immune Doctor Doom for the rest of the fight, which I really do not recommend. This is obviously going fine. We're winning the HP race. But this is not how this was supposed to go, right? It is what it is. I know I'm gonna get out of this, but that was just a dumb mistake that cost me potions I did not need to use, that was completely avoidable out of the gate. Very first war of the season. It is what it is. Better make these mistakes now in a fight that Reed is very good for. Not entirely sure what happened with Dex there. I definitely remember that one felt off. But doesn't really matter. We have reduced his special 1 attack by a full 75%. As a reminder, Reed has physical and energy resistance. Doom doesn't crit very often. I'm not scared of eating his special 1. I definitely prefer when I have debuff siphoners up so that I can go net positive on those shocks with willpower, but again, my mistake. I'll eat the potions and we move on. So next up is going to be a much more classical, this is why Reed is good fight in Galan here. It's kind of a vanilla Galan placement. Looks to mainly be for path splitting, which is totally fine. This would be a difficult fight for any of the buff immunes, or at least most of the buff immunes that you would often send to Path 2. So I get it, but because Reed can affect combat power rate and not just ability power rate, he's not going to have trouble staying ahead of Galan on reducing mass versus generating it, right? And if you are staying ahead of Galan on Special's Throne, if you're keeping mass under control, there's not a whole lot to him as a defender. Additionally, in this fight, the iDoom synergy is actually very much working for us. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, that's that gray icon we're seeing ticking down on the other side of the screen. It's Mephisto's soul imprisonment, just on Reed, which is effectively a 100% neutralize on the opponent. It's just not a neutralized type, so it doesn't interplay with those things, but it stops buffs from occurring as long as their source is your opponent for the first bit of the fight. And after that, Reed has staggers, Reed can get to his special 2. He has the fight under control by the time that expires, so it's a really, really powerful weapon for him to have, as long as it's not that first fight. So yeah, Reed making Galan look easy. And now we have what was by far the most difficult fight of my war. This was a good placement by GOM. Great Alliance, just want to shout them out. Got a lot of friends there. This was tough. There are good counters to it, but Apocalypse on the Scared Stiff node, he's going to be throwing specials at inconvenient times, and if you don't control him using the tactic, then he will not only stack further with Power Focus 2, so he has all the special 2s in the world, but his increasing combat power rate is also going to overcome the reductive part of Power Focus 2, and he will go red on you. So this is a very dangerous placement if you let it get out of hand. But what we are planning to do here is accept that we're going to get rooted and use it for easy heavy counters, like you see right there. Because Reed does not have the best heavy reach in the world. That does not matter if you are locked close to the opponent. The key then is just to make sure that I am not locked when he's throwing the energy balls part of the special 2. So right here, we really want to not be rooted. After that, it doesn't matter because I know the dex timing for the kicks. We want to make sure we dex here because that's the unblockable hit. Boom. And then now we are just back to normal. He does have a few flourish buffs, but we are going to throw a special and get rid of those. And there's the special 3. So in throwing the special 3, that removes the flourish buffs before our actual hits land, it seems. Because if it hadn't, then this would have given him a rather frightening amount of power. But it didn't. And so then we just smack him, and down he goes. Very clean fight from Reed. The root actually helped us more than it hurt, gave us some willpower healing, made it easier to land our heavy counters. That was very fun. But as confident as I am dexing Apocalypse's special 2, I knew I had basically no room for error there, so that one was stressful, not gonna lie. And I would be hesitant to assign it to someone else, because not everyone does have that special 2 evade down. I do have a video on it. I'll put it in the description if you're curious. But let's talk about this bishop fight in front of you. Part of the reason I started talking over it and didn't pause is because it's incredibly straightforward. This is one eye open, which is why you're not seeing me do the Doom Slap anywhere in here, because that involves a passive stun, and that would mean that I get damage reflected. I'm waiting out the bleed side of the hazard shift node, because we're obviously not immune to that, but we are immune to the rest, including the incinerates from Bishop's Special 1, so we can afford to slow play and not worry about what he's throwing. Now, the one risk there is because we're not heavy canceling into the special 2, we're putting actual shocks on him. If he had thrown that special 2 at the end there, it would have been unblockable because Bishop was overloading, even though he didn't have prowess. That is a risk to that fight, which is why I was blocking at the end and letting the prowesses take him down. But just want to call it out, it's still a very safe fight. Anyway, with Wiccan here, it's important to remember that Jabari is a very strong counter, as long as you do what I was doing at the start of the fight and not here, which is every time you parry him, make sure you just hit him. Make sure you just hit into his block so that you can get rid of the neutralize. Now the thing is, the neutralize is not stacking, so I could have gotten rid of the neutralize if I had been a little more on top of it and I had hit into his block again and then parried him, because it would have purified or cleansed the new neutralize. But ultimately that wasn't a problem. The node just ramped us so quickly that the special 1 took us the rest of the way. We went into the hunt, and even without the fury from throwing a special right after activating the hunt, we applied so many bleeds. Wiccan has a relatively small health pool. We just tore through him. Excellent counter, worth bringing a rank 3 Jabari. And so now we have my favorite champion against my first champion. Yes, you can all enjoy this, but Reed is just a fantastic counter to Carl here. He's going to stop him from throwing as many specials in the first place. He's going to control Mystic Dispersion, and he's going to control the healing. There is not a whole lot to this fight with those things in mind. Now, Carl is going to cause Reed to do way less damage on basic hits in certain parts of this fight, because power efficiency means he is going to refine. We just pretty much assume that's going to happen, unless we just go absolutely nuts with power starts, power backs, and a bunch of other stuff that we honestly just don't need. We are going to knock him out of the forms where we can. But I'm not too concerned about it because we are reducing healing. This is what it looks like with both Despair and Reed's own Petrifies. It's going great. He does refine here, so he can technically crit through block. I'm not concerned about him critting through block if we do end up hitting, because remember again, Reed does have physical resistance. It won't hurt him as much as some others, but we also try to avoid it because he has a bar. We know he can throw his next special here, and even though he's refined, a single heavy punish knocks him out of it, and we just go back to what we were doing. We've reversed so much healing here. Reversing willpower is doing an excellent amount of damage because, reminder, Absorbing Man actually has a smaller than average health pool for his body type. Most of his tankiness comes from the regen and the resistances, which we are controlling here. So then the reversed willpower becomes a real problem, and that was my war. Really great start to it. Somehow we have never faced GOM V before, despite the fact that they've been doing really well lately. It was nice to face them. We did win, so may not have been as nice for them to face us first war of the season. These things happen. But yeah, good to see good people on the other side. And I really enjoyed this first war of Subdue. I did use Reed last season, but not nearly as much as I'm going to use him this season, especially with him freshly rank 5 and with yet another powerful synergy for him, although obviously I'm going to be careful with it on Node 5. Yeah, I'm excited for this season. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.